Our next speaker is perhaps the speaker I'm most excited to introduce. Proposal 16 is incredibly honored to have somebody so talented. She reminds me of Daniel standing for truth and righteousness in wicked Babylon. She reminds me of Joseph with wisdom and talent well beyond his years. Unless you know her, you don't know her. So I encourage you to listen and get to know her a little bit better and the wisdom that God has given her. Please welcome Maggie Ford.
Well, I'm grateful to be here today, and I'm grateful that all of you are here, because I do think that we're standing at the dawn of a new era in the pro-life movement. And I think that it's fitting that we're here in a state with a long history of fighting racial discrimination and injustice, that we're here to unite to overcome a secret injustice, a silent discrimination that takes the lives of 16 babies in our state every day and has taken the lives of millions and millions and millions of babies in our nation since Roe v. Wade. We're united here because we believe that no woman should ever have the choice to murder her own child, and that no governor should ever allow that to happen in his state. And so the question for us is, what will we choose to do with that belief? Well, the fact that you're here shows that you have decided not to be silent anymore, that you have decided to care about this issue, and I thank you because you're joining the ranks of people who throughout the ages have stood in the spirit of Proverbs 24:11 to rescue those who are being taken away to death. When I was thinking about today, I thought of a brother and sister in Nazi Germany named Hans and Sophia Scholl. They were young people who, when confronted with the horror of the Holocaust, decided that they couldn't just sit there and let that happen. They rallied a group of their friends. They bought typewriters and duplicating machines, and they started broadcasting a message of repentance, of turning from this wickedness and evil to their nation, to Europe, to the world. And they said, an end in terror is preferable to terror without end. They were both beheaded before they saw the end of the terror of the German Holocaust, and they both were beheaded before they even finished college. But I think their legacy, their example of courage is speaking to us today. Sophie said before the judge, somebody after all had to make a start. What we said is also believed by many other people. They just don't dare express themselves like we did. She also said, how can we expect fate to let a righteous cause prevail if there's hardly anyone who is willing to give himself up undividedly to a righteous cause? Hans and Sophie chose to do two things. First, to give themselves up undividedly to a righteous cause, and second, to make a start. And that is what the young people of our state must do, no matter our age and no matter the cost. I cannot know what this is going to mean for all of us individually, and I'm still learning what that means for me. But I do know that we all should be praying and praying and praying. I do know there are people, young people here, who go outside of abortion clinics and speak truth and love to the women who enter there. I know there are young people here who write legislation and lobby legislators. I know there are young people who offer counseling at crisis pregnancy centers. There are young people here who are pursuing medical training or plan to run for office. There are young people who spend every day taking care of the siblings and the lives that God has put into their families. And I think there's a lot of young people here also who have been calling the governor and asking him to implement Proposal 16. And I hope that you'll continue. Like Karen said, abortion is not really an adult issue. It's not really a scientific issue. It's barely a political issue. More than anything, it is an issue of life and death. And I think that it is incumbent on each one of us as followers of Christ, the giver of life, to make ending abortion a priority for the rest of our lives, no matter how old we are. Because I believe that's possible. It's very possible. Just down this road, right there, there's a church called the Martin Luther King Memorial Baptist Church. And down these streets, a generation ago, people marched for rights and equal protection under the law. But several blocks that way, there's a clinic where babies are being killed, who will never set foot in a church, who will never march these streets, who will never have rights or equal protection under the law unless we march for them, unless we stand for them, and unless we speak for them. And I think we're asking Governor Bentley to do that today by implementing Proposal 16 because he can. But at the same time, we must be purposing today to do everything we can to end that murder because we must. As followers of Christ, we must. And so I hope for each of us, this day is a milestone of us committing to this purpose for the rest of our lives. Thanks.